Dust drifted through the ancient corridors like ash caught in a stagnant breeze. The human vanguard citadel, once the most feared fortress in the outer fringe, now lay in ruin, swallowed by silence and the weight of 7 millennia. Stone walls carried fractures like old scars. Collapsed beams whispered stories of wars forgotten by every civilization still breathing. Only one species dared step inside today, and they did so with arrogance. The Varak's Dominion strike team moved through the entrance chamber, their armor plates glinting green under their visor lights. Tall, sinewy, predatory, built for killing. Their laughter echoed off the hollow walls. Human relics, one hissed, brushing a claw against a cracked mural. How dramatic these primitives were. Another shoved open a rusted blast door. All dead. All myth. Just bones and dust. Their scanners pulsed. A faint energy trace appeared deep beneath the structure, ancient, dormant, but distinctly artificial. Executor Zyrath wants anything valuable intact, their squad leader muttered. Retrieve the power source. Strip the fortress. Burn the rest. They descended through a damaged stairwell, unaware that the citadel's internal sensors, corroded but functional, had begun waking from centuries of sleep. Faded runes glowed along the stone. Old power sources hummed. Energy conduits, untouched since humanity's dominion, flickered alive. At the bottom level, the Varaks reached a sealed chamber door. A circular emblem, an eagle clutching a burning sphere, was etched into its surface. Human dramatics again, one of them mocked. They worshipped their own destruction. The squad leader gestured sharply. Open it. Charges detonated. The door collapsed inward with a metallic scream. Inside, a single stasis pod rested at the center of the chamber. Pale silver, embedded with black neural conduits, frost clinging to the edges. The pod pulsed once, releasing a low resonance. The aliens circled it. This is the source, one confirmed. But whatever's inside is long dead. Open it already. They pried at the locking mechanisms. Attempts to force it caused the pod to emit a sharp burst of light that threw 2 of them backward. The Citadel responded immediately. A voice, synthesized but ancient, reverberated through the chamber. Vanguard operative detected. Stasis integrity compromised. Initiating emergency revival sequence. The aliens froze. What did it say? Before anyone could react, the stasis pod hissed. Frost crawled across its surface as the internal lights brightened. Fluid drained. The shell split open, releasing a plume of cold vapor. A man stepped out. Human. Tall, scarred, muscles carved by centuries of war before his long sleep. A hood of condensation clung to his shoulders. His eyes, sharp, assessing, unsettlingly calm, opened to a world he no longer recognized. The aliens raised their weapons, amused. This is the human fossil. Executor Zyrath expects us to fear this. The human didn't answer. He looked around slowly, disoriented for only a heartbeat before instinct seized control. His senses sharpened. Threats registered. Movement patterns mapped themselves. Reflexes, honed in wars that predated the Varak's empire, surged to the surface. The squad leader barked a command. Seize him. The nearest assassin lunged. Kale moved like a blade released from a sheath. His hand snapped forward, twisting the alien's arm until bone fractured. A kick followed, driving the attacker into the opposite wall. Another struck from behind. Kale ducked, seized the creature's wrist, and slammed it into the ground. All of it happened in seconds. The remaining Varaks stepped back, their amusement gone. What is he? One whispered. Kale stood centered, controlled, breathing evenly. His voice, when it came, was low but steady. Status report, he called to the Citadel's interface. The AI answered immediately. Time elapsed, 7,182 years. Human dominion dissolved. Vanguard forces eradicated. Remaining human enclaves scattered and endangered. Kale's jaw tightened. His memories churned battles, screams, firestorms that cracked continents. Humanity at the height of power. Humanity collapsing under the weight of its own victories. He turned to the aliens. Why are you here? Their squad leader recovered some arrogance. "We claimed this ruin. You are incidental." Cale stepped closer. "You targeted the Citadel for technology. And you thought it undefended. Because it is," the leader sneered. "A dying world. A forgotten species. You're nothing but debris from a dead era." Cale's gaze remained unreadable. Then, Citadel, reinitialize defensive protocols. The floor beneath them vibrated. Lights flared along the walls. Energy barriers sealed the exits. Old automated turrets rose from hidden compartments, humming with resurrected power. The Varax panicked. "Impossible, this fortress should be inert." Cale moved again. Fluid, efficient, merciless. He struck with precision, disabling rather than slaughtering, yet each impact carried decades of unspent violence. The aliens' confidence shattered under the weight of a warrior they had dismissed as myth. The squad leader tried a desperate strike. Cale sidestepped, grabbed his armor collar, and pinned him against the stasis pod. "You mentioned an executor," Cale said coldly. "What does he want with human ruins?" The leader spat a hiss. "Zyrath seeks the Omega Crucible. A weapon your ancestors built and never dared use." Cale's eyes narrowed. That name rippled through his memory, a weapon buried beyond the boundaries of sanity. A weapon capable of tearing star systems apart. The alien laughed weakly. "He thinks you humans exaggerated its power. But now that we have access." Cale dropped him. The creature crumpled to the floor. "Citadel," Cale said sharply. "Full system wake. Prepare tactical assessment." More lights ignited across the chamber. Holoscreens sprang to life, displaying maps of the outer fringe. Red blips swarmed across several regions, Varax fleets expanding, human colonies dwindling to sparks on a dying star map. The AI spoke. Existential threat detected. Human survival probability, critically low. Vanguard directive reinstated. Cale exhaled slowly, a breath forged from old oaths and older sins. "What is my directive?" "Neutralize extinction-level adversaries. Secure humanity's future." He turned back to the broken squad leader. "Tell your executor," he said, voice steady as steel cooling after the forge, "that humanity is not extinct. And he has made a mistake he cannot undo." Cale walked out of the chamber. Behind him, the Citadel sealed its doors, reclaiming the darkness it had waited in for millennia. Above, through fractured ceilings and collapsed halls, the first tremors of a Varax warship's arrival shook the fortress. Cale didn't look back. The last vanguard was awake. And the galaxy was unprepared for what that meant. The first tremor rolled through the Citadel as Cale reached the upper hall. Dust rained from the cracked ceiling while ancient support pillars groaned under the vibration. Outside, engines pulsed with the deep, resonant thrum of a Varax warship descending through the rift's fractured sky. The fortress had never welcomed visitors. Today it braced for occupation. Cale paused beside a shattered window where sunlight filtered through drifting smoke. The landscape beyond looked nothing like the world he remembered: scorched plains, torn cliffs, and spirals of gravitational distortion swirling at the horizon. The Arco's rift had grown violent over the centuries, its instability expanding into a furious cosmic wound. The Citadel's AI spoke through the walls, its tone crisp and restored. "Enemy vessel class, Dominion Harrower. Armament, heavy plasma arrays, ion disruptors, and boarding talons. Their objective is likely capture, not annihilation." "Zyrath wants answers," Cale muttered. "Correct." Cale tightened the braces on his forearms. They were relics of the Vanguard, adaptive armor forged from a composite the galaxy had long since forgotten how to make. The material responded to his bioelectric field, waking with dim pulses of cobalt light. He walked toward the armory, the echo of his steps merging with distant thunder. The armory doors slid open reluctantly, their mechanisms groaning after 7,000 years of sleep. Inside, racks of weapons, some pristine, some corroded, lined the walls. A Vanguard spear lay in a sealed case, its blade still sharp, its haft wrapped in preserved fibers. Beside it rested a gauntlet containing an integrated kinetic projector. Cale touched the case. The lock recognized him and dissolved into light. Still obedient, he said softly. He equipped the gauntlet and holstered the spear across his back. When the kinetic field activated, a faint ripple shimmered across his arm, matching his heartbeat. The weapon felt familiar, as if centuries had never intervened. The AI reappeared as a faint blue silhouette. Multiple boarding signatures detected. They are breaching the lower levels. Cale started toward the main corridor. How many? 3 squads initially. More inbound. They want a clean capture. They won't have it. He stepped into the elevator shaft, now a hollow column filled with debris, and scaled the interior rails. His body moved with unbroken precision. Stasis had preserved his strength, but instinct restored the rest. With each rise, the Citadel's alarms intensified. As he reached the upper platform, a Varax squad charged through a breach in the wall. Their armor gleamed with fresh paint and ritual markings, symbols denoting elite hunters. Their leader pointed, mandibles spreading in excitement. There he is. The Ancient. Cale raised his gauntlet. A compressed pulse detonated from his palm, slamming the front line into a stone column. He crossed the distance before they recovered. His spear cut through armor plating with surgical efficiency. Impact after impact dropped them one by one until the last survivor scrambled backward in shock. "What are you?" the alien gasped. Cale didn't answer. The gauntlet flashed. Silence returned. He looked up as the Citadel roof shook again. "A second harrower has entered the rift atmosphere," the AI announced. "Zyrath is committing resources." Cale wiped debris from his shoulder. "He thinks this fortress hides the Crucible's location." He is correct. The Crucible's coordinates are locked behind your neural imprint. It cannot be accessed without you. Cale slowed. "I never authorized that. It was placed there by High Command during the Dominion War. You were unaware for your own protection." A cold weight settled in his chest. Memories surfaced: briefings, secret operations, the whispered name Crucible spoken only among the highest ranks. A weapon that consumed star systems with terrifying precision. He had assumed it was sealed forever. Cale stepped through a shattered archway into the war room. The massive holographic table flickered awake, illuminating the dust-filled chamber with pale light. Star maps hovered above its surface, displaying the galaxy as it now existed. Human space was reduced to faint clusters of light at the fringes, small, scattered, endangered. Varax space, however, burned like a spreading infection. Cale traced a hand across the map. "Executor Zyrath wants the Crucible because he believes no human is left who can stop him." "He is misinformed," the AI replied dryly. Another tremor struck, stronger this time. The Citadel shook as a boarding talon pierced its upper wall. Metal shrieked. Sparks showered the floor. Cale turned toward the breach. A fresh wave of assassins emerged, their weapons humming. But this group moved with more discipline, trained specialists, not scouts. "Alive," one barked. "Executor's orders." Cale's posture stiffened. He should have come himself. They opened fire. Plasma bursts scorched the air, tearing chunks from the stone around him. Cale darted behind a collapsed pillar, letting the shots pass overhead. His spear snapped forward, locking into its extended form. A quick roll took him behind another support beam. The nearest assassin rushed in. Cale countered, slicing across the alien's armor seam. He pivoted, using the falling body as cover, and launched another kinetic pulse. The blast hurled 2 attackers through the breach they'd entered from. More soldiers advanced relentlessly. Cale pressed a finger to his gauntlet. "Citadel, divert auxiliary power to defense turrets. Target hostiles only." Mechanical whirs echoed through the war room. Concealed guns unfolded from alcoves, scanning rapidly before opening fire. Precision bolts tore through the Varax line, scattering them across the chamber. Cale sprinted toward the exit as the floor cracked beneath him. The Citadel was straining under repeated impacts another few minutes, and it risked collapse. Once outside, he stood on a ledge overlooking the rift's broken terrain. Wind howled past him, carrying metallic dust. Above, the Harrower warships circled like predators. Cale steadied his breathing. "I need transport." A functioning hangar remains in the East Wing, the AI informed him. One Vanguard interceptor is still intact. Low fuel, but operational. How long until the Varax reach it? Minutes. Cale sprinted across the ledge as explosions rippled behind him. The fortress was being carved apart piece by piece. He vaulted over gaps in the stone, landed on fractured walkways, and descended stairways half swallowed by ruin. At the hangar entrance, the last remnants of Vanguard engineering awaited him, a sleek, obsidian-black interceptor resting beneath a layer of dust. Its wings bore the old Dominion insignia, faded but unbroken. The hangar lights flickered on as the AI rerouted power. Engines are primed. Navigation systems online. Cale climbed into the cockpit. His fingertips grazed the worn controls, and a faint ache stirred in his chest, nostalgia mixed with regret. Open the bay doors. The roof split apart, revealing the rift sky boiling with gravimetric storms. Harrower gunships spotted the movement and descended immediately. Cale strapped in. Let them come. The interceptor roared to life. A barrage of plasma hammered the hangar floor as he accelerated upward. The ship burst into open air, leaving the dying citadel behind. Cale angled toward the rift's horizon, where the gravitational distortions twisted space itself into shimmering spirals. Destination? The AI asked. Cale stared at the storm ahead. To the Crucible, he said. Before Xyrath reaches it. The hunt had begun. And the rift welcomed war. The Arco's rift opened beneath Cale's interceptor like a cosmic wound, shimmering with fractured gravity, spirals of blue fire, and drifting shards of collapsed space. Entering it required precision, surviving it required instinct older than most surviving species. Cale guided the vessel into the storm. The hull groaned as gravitational fluctuations clawed at it. Warning symbols flickered across the display, but he ignored them. He had flown through worse. The Vanguard had fought entire campaigns inside spatial anomalies. The rift was dangerous, but familiar, an old battlefield resurrected. Behind him, Varax warships descended in formation. Their engines glowed crimson, cutting through the haze with predatory intent. Multiple harrowers closing in, the AI reported. Distance, decreasing rapidly. They think the rift scares me, Cale muttered. A plasma barrage streaked past the cockpit, tearing apart a fragment of floating rock. The explosion illuminated the rift's swirling depths, revealing the thin outlines of old wreckage human Dominion cruisers reduced to skeletal frames. Cale pushed the throttle. Let's show them why their ancestors feared this place. The interceptor dove steeply, weaving between debris fields and collapsing spacetime pockets. Varax pilots pursued, confident in their numbers and technology. Then a gravitational spike erupted ahead, splitting the rift wall into a spiraling vortex. Cale didn't slow. He rode its rim, letting the ship's inertial dampeners struggle to keep his body from tearing apart. The rift bent his path like a slingshot, flinging the interceptor around the vortex with brutal momentum. Varax warships followed without understanding the trajectory. The vortex shifted. Space folded inward. 3 harrowers vanished in a single flash. Cale leveled out of the maneuver. They never studied human battle archives. Most archives were lost during the Dominion collapse, the AI replied. Even myths would have warned them. 2 remaining harrowers steadied themselves and unleashed another torrent of plasma. Cale pulled into a horizontal spin, letting the shots scatter behind him. He plunged toward a jagged ridge of dark matter ice, weaving inches above its surface. The Varax split their formation to box him in. Their pilots had adapted quickly, too quickly. Someone aboard the command vessel was directing them. Cale recognized the pattern instantly. Xyrath was watching. The AI confirmed it. Encrypted Varax transmissions intercepted. Executor Xyrath is issuing real-time commands. Of course he is. He took the interceptor deeper into the rift, heading toward an unstable region marked by violent bursts of gravitational distortion. The harrowers hesitated briefly. Cale smirked. There's your first mistake. He angled the vessel toward a pocket of collapsing space. When the harrowers finally committed to the chase, Cale flicked the ship sideways, skimming the turbulence at the edge. The gravitational surge caught the pursuing ships like a tidal wave. Cale whispered, "Rift Tactics, Lesson 1. The turbulence crushed the harrowers outward, slamming them into an asteroid cluster. The enemy fleet was down to one visible signature, the command barge. A transmission crackled through the static. Executor Zyratha's voice, smooth and venomous, filled the cockpit. "Human." Cale didn't respond immediately. He adjusted the course toward the crucible's coordinates, which were now flickering faintly in the far distance. Zyrath continued, tone amused. "Your skill is noted. But the rift protects nothing forever. You cannot outrun a Dominion fleet." "I'm not running," Cale said. Zyrath chuckled. "Your kind always claimed bravery. Yet you hide inside storms, ruins, and myths." Cale steadied the controls. "You board a relic fortress, awaken something you don't understand, and assume you control the game. That arrogance is why your empire will break." Bold words from a relic. "Not words," Cale replied. "A prediction." The transmission cut abruptly. Zyrath had gotten what he wanted, a measure of Cale's voice, his composure, his intent. The executor's obsession would escalate from here. A new alarm sounded. "Cale," the AI reported, "scans show a massive gravitational disturbance ahead. It matches the energy signature recorded in old Dominion archives. The Crucible." The rift storms parted to reveal a structure suspended within the distortion, a massive ring of black alloy carved with human inscriptions. It encircled a hollow sphere of swirling light, as if containing a star's dying breath. Debris drifted around it, orbiting in chaotic spirals. The Omega Crucible. A weapon humanity had sealed because wielding it meant sacrificing entire systems to secure victory. Cale had seen it once, during a forbidden briefing. Even then, its existence weighed on him like a moral verdict. He lowered the ship's speed. The crucible pulsed with faint recognition, reacting to his neural signature awakened in stasis. Before he could approach, beams of red light erupted from the side. The Varak's command barge breached the rift's shadow, engines burning hot to maintain stability. Zyrath opened the comm again, voice colder. "You lead well. But this is where your path ends." Cale activated the Interceptor's tactical map. He brought his full command crew. A dozen escort craft, the AI added. And a boarding battalion prepared for rapid deployment. Cale studied the layout of the battlefield. "They want the Crucible operational. They need me alive to unlock it." "Correct." "Well," Cale murmured, gripping the spear mounted beside the cockpit, "they won't like how I negotiate." He dived toward the Crucible's ring. The distortions intensified, shaking the vessel violently. Lights flickered. Gravimetric alarms screamed. Cale pushed harder. Behind him, Varak's escorts attempted the same maneuver. The Crucible's defense grid dormant but reactive to foreign signatures awoke with sudden fury. Arcs of blue lightning shot from the ring, ripping through escort craft. Shattered hulls spiraled into the rift abyss. Cale flew through the chaos as if navigating a memory. He brought the interceptor alongside a docking spur near the Crucible's outer shell. The hull resonated with familiar energy, as if greeting an old commander. "Prepare external lockdown," Cale ordered. The cockpit opened. Rift winds roared in. Cale stepped onto the docking surface as his boots magnetized to the alloy. Lightning crawled across the Crucible's ring, illuminating the vast chamber beyond. Behind him, the Varak's command barge lowered its boarding pods. A single figure stepped onto the forward platform, tall, armored in black and crimson, aura radiating authority. "Executor Zyrath." His voice carried across the unstable air. "At last, the human vanguard stands before me." Cale lifted his spear. "You shouldn't have come in person." "On the contrary," Zyrath replied, stepping forward. "A legend deserves a witness when it falls." Cale's posture didn't waver. "You underestimated humanity. Your species devoured itself," Zyrath hissed. "We only finished the work you began." Cale walked toward the Crucible's central access conduit. "Let's test how well you understand the past." The Crucible responded to his presence. Ancient mechanisms shifted, opening the pathway into its core. Xyratha's mandibles widened in triumph. Unlock it for me, human. Or I will tear the knowledge from you piece by piece. Cale glanced back once. You're not ready for what this thing can do. He entered the crucible as the rift roared around them. The war had moved from pursuit to confrontation. And the galaxy would feel the consequences. The interior of the Omega crucible felt like stepping into the throat of a star. Light rippled across the corridor walls, bending and stretching as if alive. Every surface hummed with latent energy, waiting, listening, recognizing Cale's presence with a quiet, ancient intelligence. He advanced through the circular passageway, boots steady on alloy plates that had not carried footsteps in 7 millennia. Behind him, Xyrath entered with 4 elite guards, each armored in matte obsidian with red sigils etched across their chests. Their weapons flickered with charged plasma. Xyratha's voice echoed. You walk into your own surrender. Cale didn't slow. If I meant to surrender, the rift would have swallowed us both already. The corridor expanded into the crucible's core chamber, a vast sphere of floating platforms orbiting a radiant singularity suspended above a containment lattice. It resembled a star compressed into obedience. The crucible's power thrummed through Cale's bones, awakening a fragment of fear he had buried centuries ago. The AI chimed through his neural link. Welcome, Commander Arden. Neural signature confirmed. Full command privileges restored. The guards halted, stunned. Xyratha's eyes narrowed. What did it say? Cale stepped onto the primary platform. That I'm the only one this weapon listens to. Xyrath motioned sharply. His guards sprang forward. Cale reacted in a single fluid motion. His spear detached from his back, spinning into his grip. He struck the first guard with a downward arc, slicing through armor and dropping the soldier instantly. The second fired a plasma bolt. Cale deflected it with the spear haft and drove a kinetic pulse into his chest, hurling him off the platform. The remaining 2 engaged from opposite angles. Cale pivoted, letting one attack slide past him before hooking the alien's leg with the spear and ripping it from under him. The final guard lunged. Cale caught his wrist, twisted, and crushed the gauntlet's emitter against the platform's edge. Silence settled over the chamber, broken only by the crucible's steady pulse. Xyrath descended another step. Impressive. You fight with precision even your myths failed to describe. You attacked a sleeping soldier, Cale replied. The myths didn't brag about that. Xyratha's mandibles lifted in a half-smile. Then let us end the era you belonged to. He activated his gauntlets, producing twin blades of condensed plasma. Xyrath was taller, stronger, and enhanced through Dominion engineering. But his confidence outweighed his caution. Cale readied his spear. You should leave. You first. They clashed in a burst of motion. Xyrath struck with brutal strength, his plasma blades forcing Cale back across the platform. Cale parried, redirecting each strike rather than meeting them head-on. Sparks skittered along the floor as metal kissed energy. Xyrath pressed forward. You're slowing, human. Cale ducked beneath a sweeping strike. I'm calculating. He launched upward, spear slicing through the air. Xyrath blocked, but the impact staggered him. Cale followed with a kinetic blast from his gauntlet. The executor skidded backward, claws digging into the platform to anchor himself. Xyrath roared and charged. His next blow cracked Cale's shoulder armor and forced him near the chamber's edge, where the luminous core pulsed 1 heartbeat away from lethal overload. Cale steadied himself. Pain sharpened his focus. Executor, he said quietly, your empire doesn't understand this weapon. Knowledge belongs to the conqueror. Conquest doesn't grant comprehension. As Xyrath lunged again, Cale swept the spear in a tight arc, striking the alien's knee joint. Armor cracked. Xyrath faltered. Cale seized the moment, spinning behind him and driving the spear's blunt end into the base of his skull. The executor collapsed to one knee. Cale stood over him. The crucible isn't a trophy. It's a verdict. Xyrath glared up. Activate it, then. Show me the monster humanity hid. Cale turned toward the crucible's control dais. The platform unfolded, revealing a console of floating glyphs and crystalline lenses. When his hand touched the interface, the core brightened, filling the chamber with white fire. Omega sequence initiated, the AI announced. Awaiting operator directive. Xyrath scrambled to his feet. You wouldn't dare destroy the rift. Cale's gaze didn't shift. You're not my target. The crucible projected a star map midair, every system within range displayed in shimmering constellations. Varak's fleets glowed red, scattered across the outer fringe, preparing for expansion. Human enclaves flickered faintly in the periphery, fragile under the Dominion's shadow. Cale selected a single coordinate cluster, the strike force orbiting the Arco's rift. The AI processed the command. Localized annihilation confirmed. Collateral minimal. Weapon firing on your mark. Xyrath staggered toward him. You wouldn't. I warned you. Cale raised his voice. Execute. A tremor raced through the crucible. The containment lattice expanded, channeling the singularity's energy outward. Light surged through impossible angles, bending space itself until the air felt like glass cracking under pressure. Outside, the Varak's fleet detected the spike too late. A pulse of compressed energy burst from the crucible in a silent wave, crossing the rift in a blink. Vessels dissolved into spirals of white heat, erased without debris or flame. The entire fleet vanished in one stroke. The echo of the blast faded. The crucible dimmed, returning to its stable hum. Xyrath stared at Cale in stunned disbelief. You guided it. You controlled its scale. Cale stepped closer. Humanity didn't build weapons for spectacle. We built them for precision. Xyrath whispered, almost involuntarily. What are you? Cale answered without pride or sorrow, only truth. Planet killer. Xyrath lashed out in desperation, but Cale intercepted his arm and forced him down. You'll return to your dominion with a message. Never. Cale tightened his grip. Tell them humanity isn't extinct. If they pursue us again, I won't limit the crucible's output. He released Xyrath, who stumbled backward, shaken in a way no battlefield had ever reduced him. Cale turned toward the chamber entrance. The crucible had already begun sealing sections of its core, recognizing the end of the activation sequence. AI, Cale said, lock the weapon. New access code, my neural imprint only. Confirmed. He stepped onto the docking spur outside, where the rift winds tore at his armor. The path back to his interceptor stretched behind him, lit by debris from the destroyed fleet drifting like ash. Xyrath called after him, voice unsteady. You cannot restore your species with fear alone. Cale didn't look back. Fear isn't the goal. Survival is. He boarded the interceptor. Engines thundered to life. Before launching, he opened a channel across every open frequency in the rift. His message carried through static, storms, and the broken skeletons of ancient stations. To all who listen, humanity endured. We stand again. If you threaten us, remember the rift. He ended the transmission. The interceptor surged into the storm, leaving the executor and the crucible behind. The Arco's rift swallowed the ship's trail in a swirl of blue fire. The vanguard was awake. And the galaxy had just been warned.